The Black-Eyed Kids Encounters. Tonight, we drift into a story that has unsettled thousands of people across the world. A story that doesn't scream, doesn't chase, and doesn't rely on jump scares. Instead, it creeps. Quietly. Patiently. Like something waiting just beyond the warm yellow circle of your porch light. This is the world of the Black-Eyed Kids, or as many describe them, the BEKs. Strange children with pale skin, old-fashioned clothes, and large black eyes, completely black, without any whites, without any life. Children who arrive only when night falls. Children who knock softly, then insist they must be let inside. Tonight, we explore some of the most chilling, slow-burning, and atmospheric Black-Eyed Kids encounters ever reported. And as we move through them together, keep one question in mind. Why do they want to come in? Part 1. The First Knock. It was nearly midnight when Daniel, a 32-year-old truck mechanic from Oregon, first heard the knock. He remembered it clearly, because he lived deep in the countryside. No neighbors. No passing cars. Just acres of forest and an empty dirt road stretching into darkness. The knock wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. Just 3 soft taps, as if a child were politely asking to be let in. Daniel assumed it was an animal brushing against the door. Maybe a branch. But when the knock came again, 3 gentle taps, evenly spaced, something inside him tightened. He walked to the peephole. What he saw didn't make sense. 2 children stood on his porch. A boy and a girl, around 10 or 11 years old. Their heads were lowered, their clothing strange, like older styles you'd find in a thrift store or an old photograph. But more than that, they seemed still. Too still, like statues placed carefully on either side of his welcome mat. "Can we come in?" the little girl asked softly. Her voice was faint, like someone speaking through a dream. Daniel didn't open the door. He didn't even answer. Because something felt wrong. He didn't know why not yet, but something deep in his instincts whispered, "Don't open it. Whatever you do, don't open it." When he didn't respond, the boy lifted his face. That's when Daniel saw their eyes. Pure black. No pupils. No whites. Just endless darkness staring back at him through the tiny glass hole. The girl spoke again, this time with a strange pressure in her tone, something heavy and unnatural. "Let us in. We need help." Daniel stepped back from the door. The world outside felt suddenly colder. Quieter. As if the woods themselves were holding their breath. The knocking returned, but this time, it wasn't soft. It grew louder, sharper, faster. "Let us in." Daniel fled to the back of the house and locked himself in his bedroom. He waited there until morning, hands trembling, listening as the knocking slowly stopped, and the night returned to silence. When he finally went outside after sunrise, his porch was empty. But tiny footprints, small, barefoot, and unmistakably human, circled the house again and again. Dozens of times. Like something had been waiting. Watching. Part 2. The Man on the Highway. CO keyword, real Black-Eyed Kids sightings. Another encounter comes from a man named Lyle, a long-distance driver traveling through Nevada. He had pulled over near a rest stop late at night, exhausted but unable to sleep. Outside his window, the desert was silent. A huge, endless ocean of sand, wind, and darkness. Around 3 a.m., he noticed a figure appear beside the road. A child. Alone. The boy stood completely still, arms at his sides, facing the road as if waiting for something. His clothing looked wrong, too neat, too clean, like a child in a staged photograph. At first, Lyle thought the boy must be lost. But then the boy turned his head, slowly, and stared straight at him through the windshield. That was when Lyle saw his eyes. Black. Empty. Reflecting no light at all. The boy began walking toward the truck. Not running. Not waving. Just walking, with an eerie calmness, like he already knew Lyle wouldn't drive away. When he reached the door, he spoke without emotion. "You need to let me in." Lyle felt something ripple through his mind, pressure, confusion, like his thoughts weren't fully his own anymore. "I can't stay out here," the boy continued. "You need to let me in so I can warm up." But the desert wasn't cold. It was nearly 85 degrees Fahrenheit that night. When Lyle didn't open the door, the boy placed his hand on the window. His skin was pale and thin, almost translucent. Then he whispered, "We'll come back for you." "Not I. Not me. We." The boy turned and walked away, vanishing into the desert without leaving footprints. Lyle started the engine and drove until sunrise. He never used that highway again. Part 3. The woman in apartment 3C. CO keyword, black-eyed children mystery explained. One of the most unsettling encounters took place in an ordinary apartment building in Dallas, Texas. Eleanor, a 64-year-old retired nurse, lived alone in apartment 3C. She didn't believe in ghosts, demons, or anything supernatural, at least, not until the winter night she heard a knock at her door around 11 p.m. Through her peephole, she saw a small boy. Maybe 8 years old. He wore a thin hoodie, jeans, and no shoes. "Please," he whispered. "I'm lost." Eleanor, being a former nurse, almost opened the door out of instinct. But something troubled her. The boy wasn't shivering. He wasn't crying. He wasn't breathing heavily. He just stood there like he was waiting for a line in a play. "Sweetheart, where are your parents?" she asked through the door. He tilted his head slightly. "They're close." A chill crept up her spine. "Please let me in. I need help." She hesitated. "Look at me," she said gently. The boy lifted his head and Eleanor saw his eyes. Black. Completely black. She stepped back. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She had seen many things in her years as a nurse, but nothing like this. Something about the boy's presence felt wrong. Unnatural. As if he wasn't a child at all, but something wearing the shape of one. The boy grew impatient. "Let me in." His voice deepened slightly, just enough to sound not quite human. Eleanor grabbed her phone. The second she did, the boy's expression changed. His face twisted, not with anger, but with something colder. Recognition. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. He stepped back, and then stepped sideways, disappearing into the dim hallway as if he had melted into the shadows. When security reviewed the hallway camera footage the next day, something strange happened. There was no boy. No figure. No footsteps. Nothing at all. But at the exact minute Eleanor reported the encounter, the hallway lights flickered on the recording, for nearly 12 seconds. Part 4. What are they? Many who experience creepy paranormal encounters with black-eyed kids describe the same patterns. They appear only at night. They ask to be let in, never forcefully, always politely, at first. They move strangely, with calm, unnatural precision. Their voices are flat, emotionless, sometimes monotone. They do not approach unless they are noticed. Their eyes are completely black, reflecting nothing. And the strangest detail of all: they cannot enter unless you give them permission. This detail has led some to believe they are similar to folklore entities, spirits, demons, or something interdimensional. Others think they are a modern cryptid or an unexplained psychological phenomenon. But the most chilling theory suggests that the black-eyed children are not physical beings at all, but invitations, gatekeepers, messengers. Once you let them in, something follows. And while thousands of encounters have been reported, almost none come from people who actually opened the door. Those stories remain unknown. Part 5. The final encounter. The house in Nova Scotia. CO keyword: mysterious black-eyed kids encounters. The most famous modern encounter happened in rural Nova Scotia, where a couple living on a quiet property claimed to have experienced something that changed their lives forever. It was snowing heavily that night. The kind of snow that muffles sound and makes the world feel distant and unreal. Around 2:30 a.m., a loud knocking echoed through the house. The couple, Alan and Marie, thought it must be a stranded driver or someone in danger. When Alan opened the door, he immediately froze. Two children, a boy and a girl, stood on the porch. They wore no coats. Their skin was pale. Snowflakes melted on their hair, but their bodies didn't shiver. "We're lost," the boy said softly. "Can we come in?" Marie noticed something strange. Despite the biting cold, no steam rose from the children's breaths. "Where are your parents?" she asked. "They're close," the girl answered, just like in other encounters. When Alan looked closer, he finally saw their eyes. Black. Endless. Like looking into two wells with no bottom. Marie screamed, slamming the door shut. The children's voices grew louder, echoing through the wooden door. "Let us in! Let us in! Let us in!" Then suddenly, silence. The next morning, fresh snow revealed something disturbing. The children had not walked to the house. No footprints led to the porch. But dozens, maybe hundreds of small bare footprints circled the house repeatedly, creating a spiraling pattern around the walls and windows. As if something had been closing in on them all night. Marie moved out 2 months later. Alan left the house behind. Neither returned. The question that remains: black-eyed kids encounters continue to be reported today, from isolated farmlands to busy cities, from dark highways to quiet apartment buildings. Every encounter feels the same. A knock on the door. A child asking to come inside. A feeling of deep, instinctual fear. Black, empty eyes staring back at you. And a presence that feels older, much older, than the small body it wears. But the question that haunts everyone who hears these stories is this: what happens if you say yes? What happens if you open that door? Maybe it's better that we don't know. But if one night you hear a knock long after midnight, a soft, polite tapping on your window or your door, and you see a child standing outside, alone, remember this story. And whatever you do, don't let them in. Don't ever let them in.